I just spent $300 on gaming mice used by pro Valorant players to see if you can get Radiant on a budget. By far the most common mouse on the list, and the one that I use is the Logitech Superlight, but that's over $150 new. And given that my mouse breaks almost every year, which is why I have two of them here, that can really add up. So let's compare it to the three cheapest mice that are still good enough to be used by pro Valorant players to see if there are features you lose out on, or if you and I have been getting ripped off on mice for years. Starting with the new $159 Logitech G Pro X Superlight 2, which I'll use as a benchmark for the cheaper mice. My old one isn't technically dead, but after lasting for about 1 year, the left click started to randomly double click. And it's not the first time I've had this happen on a Logitech mouse. So this time, instead of just renewing my yearly Logitech subscription, I also bought these three mice. The third cheapest mouse comes from a brand that I've never heard of, the Endgame Gear XM1, which Pottypon from X10 uses, among others. It comes in at $59.99 and seems to be popular among pro FPS players in both Valorant and CS. The packaging feels extremely cheap. I mean, compared to the Logitech box, it feels like there's nothing in here. But at the end of the day, that's not going to matter if the XM1 performs well. It comes with a second set of skates if you like more coverage, and a user manual. I like that it tells you the common DPIs based on color, so I can get up and running without installing any software. The first thing I notice with this mouse is the extreme inward slant of the sides of the mouse that force my pinky in an awkward position to get a good grip, but it feels more comfortable if you happen to use a claw grip. Booting up a few ranked games with the XM1, I immediately noticed what I thought would be the second major downside for me: the cable. My last 5 mice have all been wireless, and when I plug in the cable to charge my Superlight, it feels really clunky. Whereas, with the XM1, it actually has a nice lightweight braided cable that surprisingly didn't affect me at all. I basically forgot it was there, so if you use a wireless mouse previously, this should not be a problem for you. However, something that I didn't expect to be this bad is the scroll wheel placement. Compared to every other mouse I've used, it feels super far forward, meaning I can only reach the closest third of the wheel comfortably. This didn't affect me too much in-game since I only use scroll wheel to switch weapons rarely, but I'm sure it would if you use scroll wheel to jump, and it's annoying for everyday use. Aside from the awkward shape for my hands that led to a few whiffs early on, once I got used to it, I never felt like the mouse let me down. I was able to pick it up and hold my own in Immortal games. If you're okay with the shape, and especially if you use a claw grip, the XM1 gets a big thumbs up from me.
Bruh.
But can you go even cheaper? At $49.99, or only $35.50 if you're okay with open box, can the glorious Model D still be good enough to not hold you back in game? It's used by several VCT players, including e.g. BCJ. Its packaging is similar to the Superlight in how the mouse is presented to you, leading to the first thing you notice about the glorious Model D, being the hexagonal holes in the plastic. You don't really feel them when holding the mouse, but it comes in at nearly the same weight as the XM1 and 9 grams heavier than the Superlight, which both don't use holes. I'd imagine it will pick up dirt and be annoying to clean. Along with the Beehive, this is the only mouse on the list that has RGB, which might be a big deal to you. If the design doesn't bother you, it has a large ergonomic shape which feels the best in the hand out of any of these options. Except, when I got into a ranked game, I immediately noticed how gummy the switches and the scroll wheel feel. When I really hold down the left click hard, the plastic gives a little bit after being fully bottomed out, making for some inconsistent Odin sprays. But that problem might be unique to my playstyle and why I go through mice so quickly. On the other hand, scrolling feels sticky to start, and then there's less feedback between the individual scroll steps compared to other mice. And that's where the cheapest gaming mouse used by a pro VCT player comes in. The popular Logitech G305 remains solid when bottoming out and has tactile scroll bumps. It is made by the same company as the Superlight, but at a quarter the price, just $39.99 at the time of purchase, or $45 now. You must be losing a lot for that, right? Well, Its main downside is that it's not in the same weight bracket as the others, and on top of that, it requires a heavy AA battery, which is very noticeable if you're used to lighter mice. But on the flip side, it's the only one that's wireless, and its battery life absolutely stomps any rechargeable wireless mouse at 250 hours. And it's using the same light speed technology as the Superlight, so there's no need to worry about delay, although all three of these mice, including the old Superlight, only support up to a 1K polling rate, which many modern high-end mice are starting to beat. However, out of the three mice, the G305 was by far the easiest to switch to in my games. Even in just the first game using it, I felt confident holding angles, something I couldn't really say for the other two. Just like the other two mice, it has two side buttons, which are basically a requirement for my Valorant keybinds, and a color-changing indicator with a DPI button that lets you cycle through some common presets. If the weight and smaller size don't bother you, the G305 is a great option. After playing with the three cheapest mice that are good enough for pros, I think that the G305 is far and away the best value. The XM1 is the best overall mouse, and lastly, the glorious Model D has the most comfortable ergonomics. Most importantly, these are all solid options under $60 that will not stop you from competing at the highest level, while still keeping some of the creature comforts of high-end mice. I'll leave links to each in the description, but I was too lazy to set up affiliate links, so maybe leave a like instead if you like the video. And if you want to learn how to use your new mouse like a pro player, make sure to check out this video next.